Bartholomewtown is brought to you in part by the University of Rhode Island Online, Navigant Credit Union, the Audubon Society of Rhode Island, Newport Film, and Half Street Group.
Bartholomewtown.
Hey, welcome into Bartholomewtown. It's Bill Bartholomew here with you, and it is a very, very busy day here in the land of Bartholomewtown. Coming up on this podcast, I speak with Providence City Councilor Sue AnderBois on a wide variety of topics, really some of the solutions-oriented work that the councilor is doing. That previously scheduled interview took place this morning. And look, let me get right to it, folks. Let me not bury the lead. A story published in the Boston Globe that pertains to your host here, me, titled, From Podcasting to Politics, Bill Bartholomew mulls a run for Rhode Island Lieutenant Governor. Bartholomew is seriously considering entering what is expected to be a wide-open multi-candidate race against Lieutenant Governor Sabina Matos. All right, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to read you the article by Dan McGowan that ran in today's Boston Globe. I'm going to offer a couple of thoughts. I'll point also to anybody who's hearing this that there is an article on WPRI. Ray Bakari did that one. That also includes a response from Lieutenant Governor Matos to this floating idea. But let me just get right to it. Let me just read the article for you, because you certainly could read it for yourself, but why not? Let's get right into it. Bill Bartholomew, a do-it-all podcaster, musician, and talk radio producer and host at WPRO, is mulling a run for Rhode Island Lieutenant Governor next year against incumbent Sabina Matos. Bartholomew hasn't yet opened a campaign account to begin raising money, but he confirmed that he is seriously considering entering what is expected to be a wide-open multi-candidate race against Matos, a Democrat whose 2023 campaign for Congress was marred by a bizarre signature collecting scandal that led to a campaign worker being charged with a felony. While he has never run for office before, Bartholomew has become a mainstay in the local media thanks to his popular podcast, Bartholomewtown, which he launched in 2018. One of his early guests was Dan McKee, who was lieutenant governor at the time. He now produces and frequently fills in as host of the Dan York Show on WPRO. The bigger picture: Bartholomew would need to prove that he has the ability to raise enough money to be competitive. Matos spent more than $500,000 during her first campaign for lieutenant governor in 2022, but he believes there could be an opening for a center-left candidate in the race. He is well-liked by progressives who could help him in a Democratic primary, but he has also gained the respect of more conservative listeners at WPRO. He tends to offer a more optimistic, upbeat view of Rhode Island than some of his colleagues, but he's been highly critical of Department of Transportation Director Peter Alvidi's handling of the Washington Bridge closure. While nothing would stop him from keeping his podcast, Bartholomew could face pressure to leave the radio gig if he officially enters the race. In 2014, Buddy Cianci kept his job as a radio host after entering the race for mayor, but took a leave of absence after the Democratic primary. Matos has already said she is running for re-election next year, and plenty of currently elected officials have also been mentioned as potential candidates, including term-limited Attorney General Peter Nerona, State Senator Lou DePalma, and Central Falls Mayor Maria Rivera. Let me read you Matos' response to WPRI, who ran their own, like I said, article that was, I don't even know how you describe it. It was just sort of another deep dive into this conversation. But let me see. Let me just pull this up here. I don't know where it is. Okay, here we go. Sabina Matos tells WPRI on this mulling of a potential lieutenant governor run by me. She says, I expect there to be a lot of political announcements in the 18 months between now and the election, but I remain focused on my job and serving the people of Rhode Island by lowering the cost of groceries, protecting our small businesses, and caring for our seniors. All right, so there it is, folks. Talking about myself, reading an article about myself out loud on my podcast. Yeah, that's what it's come down to today, but I don't see any other way to handle this. So, look, McGowan reached out to me yesterday. And, you know, it was his opinion that some of the work that I've been doing lately sounded a little candidate-like. And look, in the back of my mind, there's definitely been this notion of maybe running for office someday. And in particular, right now, I think that there is a vulnerability when it comes to Subpoena Matos. And I think that Lieutenant Governor's office, not just on a political vulnerability level, but I think that there's an opportunity to do something really, really special with that office. It's really an entrepreneurial seat. There are some constitutional, statutory elements to what the Lieutenant Governor does in Rhode Island, but in a lot of ways, you kind of define your own operation, at least until the governor resigns or is otherwise incapable of serving in their role. We certainly saw that when former Governor Raimondo left for the Biden administration, and now Governor McKee was elevated from lieutenant governor to governor. So that's the origin point here. Now, I gave this keynote address for Grow Smart Rhode Island last week, a big deal to me. I worked hard on it, and without question, as I was putting that together, I was thinking about what we've talked about here on the podcast now for over 850 episodes, for the most part, which is how can we bring Rhode Islanders closer to their world, and how can we present a solutions-oriented, optimistic, but realistic, pragmatic, if you will, assessment of the state of the world, the state of the state, and what we need to do to harness the power and the potential that we've already experienced, that we're experiencing, and what do we need to make major changes on? And that was essentially the theme of the keynote. And I'll deliver some version of that keynote on an upcoming podcast. We'll also have the full presentation available on video shortly. So all of that's been swirling back in my mind for a while. This has been something that I've considered at some level. But I never really wanted to just run for office for the hell of it. I never wanted to be some kind of rogue candidate. And I'm not sitting here today on Wednesday, May 14th. As I record this, you're hearing this on Thursday, May 15th, as the podcast is released in the morning. But I never really, and I don't at this point in time, feel comfortable saying, yeah, I'm doing this. But am I considering it? Is it worth thinking about? Is it worth assessing as a possibility? Yeah, I think it is. And here's why. I think that the work that we've done together here on Bartholomewtown, across all the different platforms, be it on the radio, be it on television, be it on social media, be it in person, and obviously here on the pod. That mission that I've felt empowered to be engaged in is this very same mission that I would continue on with in an elected position. Again, bringing Rhode Islanders closer to their world and trying to present solutions-based tactics to improve the state. And I'm not talking about 5 years, 10 years. I'm talking about like big picture. Like what's 50, 100, 200 years look like in Rhode Island? And how can Rhode Island be we'll use the analogy because it's pertinent to the state's identity. Well, how can we be a lighthouse for the rest of the world? And some people roll their eyes and they're like, what the hell are you talking about, man? And these are things I deeply believe in. And look, I've had over 850 interview conversations here on this podcast, many others on WPRO, Rhode Island PBS, whatever other platforms. And through those experiences, I have we've drilled down on so many unique issues, right? And getting an understanding from the people. And when I say the people, I don't mean the body of everybody out there. I mean the people who are involved in the work. Give me an issue, and let's talk to the people on the ground in that space that are experiencing it from different angles and take an apolitical assessment of the reality on the ground here in Rhode Island. That's been the approach that I've tried to take. And I've done a lot of work outside of just the podcast. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, I didn't even talk about this on the podcast. I really should have done an episode because it was so incredible. But I was at Space-a-thon at MIT. It was an amazing event where there were all kinds of people who work with James Cameron in film, people from an engineering side, from an astrophysicist type of mindset. And look, I had the opportunity after attending this event to have lunch with a woman who is potentially going to be the first deaf astronaut, NASA astronaut. So through her interpreter, sitting there and having this lunch and this conversation, it was an amazing experience. Why is this germane to Rhode Island? Well, because I asked her, I said, there's a lot of discussion about things using space, not just to put satellites up there for Musk or, exoplanetary discovery and inhabitants or inhabitation to get out of planet Earth in case the place, literally becomes uninhabitable because of climate change or human-made destruction of, nuclear weapons, whatever. there's also like practical implications, like we're going to maybe be able to grow crops in space, and we need to be able to figure out how to payload them back to the planet. And so to do things like this and to do a lot of the work that's happening in space, there's a lot of autonomous drones that are happening. Well, what are we doing here in Rhode Island that's really strong? The blue economy, inclusive of underwater autonomous drones. So I asked, I asked some people at Spaceathon, inclusive of Sheila, the astronaut who will potentially be the first deaf person to be an astronaut for NASA, or a period. What's the relationship between blue tech and space tech? And there's so much there. Are we talking about that in Rhode Island? I don't know. What I do know is that space is a frontier that is going to become increasingly relevant in communications, in so many different sectors. And the work we're doing here in Rhode Island with blue tech and autonomous drones translates beautifully to some of the major stuff that's going to happen in the future. So that's just one small example of a Saturday where I've just tried to drill down on what needs to happen and what we can do. What we can do to improve our state and what we can do to harness the potential that we have. That's what's on my mind. It's not about like being, oh ho, here he comes, the lieutenant governor or whatever. I would be doing Bartholomewtown from the State House. I think it's room 216 where the lieutenant governor is. So that's the idea. But look, I've spent the day working the phones. And when I say working the phones, getting calls. And many of them from you guys, and messages from you guys, and messages of support. And I've heard from elected officials. I've heard from people from both parties, from activists, nonprofits, artists. I just stopped by the State House now on my way home from WPRO. I saw a lot of people there, a lot of enthusiasm up there. So I'm not saying I'm not doing this. I'm not saying I'm doing this. If I do it, I'm probably going to have to leave WPRO. All right? That's a big deal. One, it's a job. Two, it's a powerful tool in the toolbox, and we're able to communicate our message to a wide audience through that vehicle. And that's a major deal, the thought of stepping away from WPRO. Wow. Not necessarily something that I want to do. So all of that being said, it's out there. I wanted to address it with you guys straight up. It's not like I've been plotting something. It just kind of happened. McGowan messaged me, asked if he could write the article. I said, yeah, for sure. Go for it. Why not? I wasn't sure if it was just going to be a sentence or if it was going to be like a feature. Like, here's 15, 20 people that you might not have thought of that might run for office someday. But it ended up being, as I described to you and read for you, pretty detailed article. And that's where it's at. And I'm just going to leave it there. And I'm going to continue to have these conversations. I'm going to continue to think about things from different standpoints. Chief among them, what's best for the state. I don't think Sabina Matos is like this horrible person that needs to be, primaried, or else the state is going to, crash and burn or something like that. I think she's actually, I don't think she's like in that category at all. But what I do think is that we need a major shift in attitude in this state and approach. And I don't know if am I that person. I'm not sure. I like to think that the work that we do together, you the listener, you the guest, me the host and reporter and journalist in this context of Bartholomewtown and RIPodcast.com and the whole thing is like it's a work of art, right? It's like writing a song or creating a painting. And we're just like constantly working on it. We're constantly tweaking it. You're like, is that the right key? Should I try different tuning? That lyric, I don't know, is that plural? Should I say the or just go right into the word? All these like refining pieces that go into the creation, in the creative process. That's what government is. That's what politics is. That's what I want to be doing. And I trust that there's enough people in Rhode Island that I feel that have that same mentality. That I feel if I ran on a campaign like that, it's winnable. It's not because Matos sucks or something. So let's get that clear as well. It's because I think that there's a need for an attitude shift. And I think there's a desire for it, and I'd like to help facilitate that. So that's that. We're going to get to our conversation right now that sort of continues this theme of solutions-oriented approaches. And I wanted to come out and begin today's episode, though, with that description for you, because you deserve it, and you're the core of all of this. And send me an email, bill@ripodcast.com. I'd love to know what you think about this. Floating a mulling of an idea to run for lieutenant governor. Hey, it's a long ways away. You're not going to hear anything. I'm not going to make any decisions anytime soon. We got a long way to go. I love you guys. Let's get to our conversation of the day.
Bartholomewtown.
Today, we welcome a solution maker. How's that for a title right there?
I love that.
We may have just invented, like, it was influencer, it was thought leader. I mean, LinkedIn is going to copyright that title right there, and you're going to have that as an available option when you're reacting to somebody's post coming up pretty shortly. Sue, I guess the first thing is introduce yourself and kind of give a little bit of an executive summary to anybody who somehow shockingly doesn't know who you are, which is probably a minority of the audience, but let's do it properly.
You are so kind. It's really, really great to be with you today, Bill. So I'm Sue AnderBois. I am the city councilor for Providence, representing Ward 3, which is the most northern part of the east side. And then I serve on a variety, so many of our committees, including finance. I created 2 of my own committees, the Special Committee on the Environment and Resilience, as well as a task force to deal with North Main Street. I'm a parks commissioner, and I'm on the Hope Committee. So anyway, I can be creating solutions, I'm really down for, and I'm excited for the conversation today.
Yeah, likewise. You definitely wear a lot of hats. Please don't do what Elon Musk did the other day, though, and put on like 2 MAGA baseball hats at the same time. That's an image.
Would never do that.
All right, thank you. For a lot of reasons. We'll leave it at that. So, I think right now is a really important moment in Rhode Island history, in world history, right? It feels like we're certainly in this shift from a lot of the things that were causing, I've been referring to it as social atomization, which is when people start acting like individualized atoms instead of part of a collective whole. I've been really on that theme. And
Yeah.
I think that break up and breakdown of society, it obviously stems from a lot of different issues that we'll get into in future episodes here on Bartholomewtown one-on-one. But just from an initial standpoint right now, the nature of the world and how it impacts you and your work. What's the biggest challenge you're facing right now in getting things done and actually introducing new ideas and new solutions and bringing them not even to fruition, but just getting people to understand what you're talking about?
Yeah, good question. And first, I really want to agree with what you were just saying about atomization. I feel like we're at this moment where people feel so alone and isolated. And I was just chatting with somebody else about, my inbox right now for council is this kind of interesting whiplash between, hey, Sue, I'd really like us to get some more benches in the parks. Like, what can we do to get some benches? And on the other side, like, hey, Sue, what are you doing to fight fascism? And it's like this, like, whoa.
One and the same, if you really think about it.
But
You know what I mean?
if you really think about it, they're kind of like the benches, the ways that we can all gather together and be together and bump into people you wouldn't otherwise know and like stop being so separate and like get to sit together on a bench at the park and talk to someone you've never talked to before. So one, that. But 2, I think one of the biggest impediments to getting things like some of these big things done is like there's a lot of big complicated things and that are facing our city, that are facing our state. And it's really easy to say, like, oh, I only own this little piece, or I don't own this at all. This is somebody else's problem. And so to be able to just pick up the football, I shouldn't use sports analogies because I dropped those real quick, but to be able to pick up the ball and just run with it and say, no, someone's got to own this. Government could be a project manager. Like maybe we don't own it, all of this, but like, how do we like pick this up and really run with it? And I think that's a big problem because if like a lot of times folks don't want to or can't like put their whole arms, I'm like using my arms so no one can see me, but their whole arms around a problem. And it's like, you don't have to own the whole problem to like own trying to create the solution. Yeah, and I really think that's been a big problem. Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Look, here's the reality as well. And I think there's a lot of data that supports this notion of loneliness. I just talked about this at the Grow Smart RI Smart Growth Awards in detail. And again, I'm going to break this down for the audience and sort of my findings in an upcoming episode. But there's a lot of data around loneliness, political fragmentation, and just loss of place. And you're a placemaker as a counselor. So right now, in terms of whether it's standing up third spaces, for anybody who doesn't know what that is, that's a spot that's not your home or place of work that has sort of a sense of belonging. You can think of a venue, you can think of a cafe, really open spaces, parks. What is it going to take for Providence right now to transform into a leading locale for third places and bringing people together so that they can dialogue?
Bartholomewtown.
Birds are disappearing from our landscape at a rapid pace. Over 1/3 of those breeding on Audubon Society of Rhode Island's wildlife refuges are in decline. Climate change has taken a toll on their migration, nesting, and food sources. While science is highlighting the problem, Audubon is working on real solutions with a plan to rapidly reduce their carbon emissions. The organization will be free of fossil fuels by 2030, with renewable energy powering Audubon's buildings, equipment, and vehicles. To shape our future, all of us must act. Learn more about Repowering Audubon, their avian research, and how you can join their fight for climate resiliency. Visit asri.org/repower. Newport Film screens the latest, critically acclaimed documentary films year-round across Rhode Island. Like a film festival, Newport Film often gets early access to films before they're available online or in the theaters. Stay up to date on their latest screening events at newportfilm.com or on Instagram @NewportFilm. Are you looking to advance in your career or explore a new field? The University of Rhode Island now offers a comprehensive portfolio of fully online programs designed to bring world-class education to you anytime, anywhere. Choose from a wide range of flexible, asynchronous programs in business and leadership, data, tech, and STEM, healthcare and pharmacy, marine and environmental science, and more. With expert faculty and innovative courses, you'll gain the skills and knowledge to thrive in today's competitive world. Are you ready to take the next step? Visit uri.edu/online and discover how URI Online can help you achieve your goals. URI Online, learn anywhere with us. Half Street Group brings a new generation's perspective to leadership communication, strategic public relations, and digital marketing. Half Street helps organizations and leaders take control of their own stories and manage their reputations. They get results for their clients by focusing on audience message and culture and by leveraging their decade-long relationship with media and opinion leaders in the Ocean State and throughout New England. Join me and Half Street Group founder and president Mike Rea for a conversation every month about news of the day, the hottest media analysis, and a look behind the scenes at how impactful leaders drive conversations. Learn more at halfstreetgroup.com. As Rhode Island's first ever member-owned credit union, Navigant Credit Union has been a staple in the local business community for more than 108 years. Today, Navigant is a $3.4 billion institution serving more than 136,000 members across 25 physical branch locations. But since its founding in 1915, the mission has never changed. Navigant Credit Union's team of financial professionals have remained committed to improving the financial well-being of the families, businesses, and communities they serve across Rhode Island. Learn more at navigantcu.org.
Yeah. So I think there's a few things. One, I want to shout out our parks department real quick because over the last 10 years, they have done so much to transform open spaces in the city so that almost anybody can walk outside of their apartment or their house and be within a park within 5 minutes. Just a quick walk. Most people in the city can do that. And those are really important third spaces. And a lot of them have shelter or they have activities for people of all abilities. I live pretty close to Lippett Park. We just added a mister so that folks of all abilities and all ages can just walk through and cool down on a hot day. And we're experiencing, I'll talk about climate change in any room, but we're experiencing more and more hot days as our climate gets warmer. So one, just shout out to the Parks Department. They do just amazing work. And I think that's a big piece. But another piece is, and I just mentioned, a lot of people could just walk to a park. We need to do a better job as a city and as a state of recognizing all the ways that people want to be mobile and enabling those. And so I've been really working hard on council on North Main Street, as well as just in general. I wrote our commitment to Vision Zero, which is zero traffic fatalities or major injuries by 2030. And it's we need to make these commitments that people can get around in any of the ways they want to get around to the places they want to get to. Because when we're in our little cars, and I drive, this is not demonizing cars. I have a car, I drive my car, I have an EV. But I also walk, I get around in lots of ways. But when we're in our cars, we're isolated and we're by ourselves and it's us going somewhere else. Whereas when you're on the bus or you're on foot, you're bumping into people, you're saying hello, you're getting to the place you want to go, whether or not there's parking there, you're able to just get there. And I think if we don't enable all these other ways and make them safe for folks so that they feel comfortable walking around, that they can like use whatever mobility device they need, like a wheelchair or a scooter or whatever they need. Like that makes it harder too to connect. And also just the being out and about, not in your own little like car box where you're just singing along to the music, which, again, I do sometimes, but you're all alone in there. And so when you're just walking around, you bump into people, you see your neighbors, you see people you don't know, you say hello, you smile. So I think that kind of like, not just looking at like transit as a way to get around, but transit is a way to like make friends and to like get to know your community, or, non-car mobility is not just a way to connect people from A to B, or, it's expensive because fixing the sidewalks takes money, which it does, but like, it has all these other ancillary benefits. So I think that's another piece, is the like really focusing on all of our non-car transportation options as well, how we get to those third spaces.
Yeah, totally. I mean, transit it's tied into climate resiliency, no question about it, urban, but it's under the umbrella of urban planning, and all of those things kind of work together in tandem, along with another major one, and that is housing. What are we going to do? What are we going to do about housing in Providence? What are we going to do about housing in the world right now? But let's just stay again in Providence and sort of Providence Metro, because the trends within the city impact really the whole state. I mean, let's be honest about it. It's one big city state. I mean, what are we going to do? How should there be rent stabilization in Providence right now?
Yeah, great question. So, one, yes, to answer that question directly, we need to use all the tools in our toolbox, and one of those is going to be rent stabilization. So I'm excited for us to, as a council, get that introduced pretty soon. I know we've been working hard on it to get it right at the on the council leadership. Once we do have something introduced, I encourage members of the community to come weigh in, make sure we're doing it in the right way, but that's definitely one of the tools. And I say one of the tools because what are we going to do? It's one of those things where we're going to need to do like 15 to 20 things. The House has passed 50 pieces of housing legislation. The speaker's just running as fast as he can, and all of his colleagues. But at the city level, I wish there was one silver bullet, but it's really going to be a bunch of things. So one of the things I'm excited that we just did was we passed the new comprehensive plan in the fall. And then just this spring, we passed the first tranche of updates to the zoning code. And increasing density across the city through zoning is a big piece of the puzzle, like allowing for, the way that the city has existed for a long time, with triple deckers, with multifamilies, with duplexes, densifying in a way that makes sense for our neighborhoods, and also increases our ability to build housing. And so a lot of neighborhoods across the city, including all across Ward 3, have had increased density through the zoning. And I'm hopeful that that is one of the first steps that's going to allow us, because we're going to need to build. We're going to need new housing. And also we're going to need more protections for folks, like the majority of Providence residents who are renters, more protections for them against any sort of predatory landlord practices.
Yeah. So we have all these ingredients that you've just outlined, housing, chief among them, I would argue. And then along with that, of course, transit, obviously climate resiliency, standing up third spaces, open space. And then there's just this other piece, the attitude. What's the attitude of, because we think about Rhode Island and there's, I grew up here and there's this thing, oh, Rhode Island, can you believe this state? Wow. Can you? And then they always drop a salary. Oh, this $172,000 a year person does this.
It cracks me up.
And just, it used to crack me up. Now it's just boring. Your eyes roll back and you're like, oh my God, dude, let's move on. Let's just get with the picture here. We're way stuck in the mud. At the same time, there's a lot of things that are moving forward. What's your sense, constituent wise, of the attitude of the population right now about the effectiveness of government and the effectiveness of someone like you that's really solution oriented in moving the state forward? And let's be honest, Democrats missed the mark on this big time in the 2024 presidential election. That's why they lost. They didn't find a way to communicate that at all. On a local level, is your message resonating, or are people still skeptical that we're going to get out of the problem areas that we're really bogged down by?
Yeah, I think it's resonating. I have to say, I hear from folks all the time who are excited to be part of the solution. It's very energizing and invigorating to hear people who are we've had folks start new, Friends of Parks groups. And I'm organizing with my fantastic constituent and head of Adoption RI, Darlene Allen. We're doing a Light Up Hope for Democracy next week, May 21st on Hope Street. Come join us at dusk. But folks are looking for ways to engage. And so I try and bring this I really feel like government is a huge part of the solution. And I know when I was running, I'll share something that was a little bit of a bummer. I remember I was knocking on doors and one person asked me like, "Hey, do you think you might be too nice to be in government?" And I thought that was a huge bummer because like, and I said, no, of course not. Like we should have, and that's not like a self call of me. That's not me trying to toot my own horn, but it was like, we should have nice people in government. We should have kind people. We should have solution oriented people in government because government can get things done. And I see people all across the state. What gets me really energized is like, I used to work for the state. I was the state's first director of food policy. There's people doing cool stuff in every corner of this state. And a lot of times it's like for lack of connection to the other people doing cool stuff that it's not super energized. And so it's like, I feel like part of my job on council is, I'm part of the legislative branch. I'm trying to pass as many policies as I can, but also that kind of like, how do I connect folks to the community and how do I connect folks to what's going on in government? Because there has been this disconnection. I do this like newsletter every 2 to 3 weeks. That's like, here are the hearings that are coming up. Here's the community meetings. Here's like the cool stuff happening in the parks, and it's an overwhelming amount of cool stuff that's happening in this city. And so I feel like the tenor among constituents is, this is just the coolest people in this ward. So very active folks, but also like some rightful skepticism because city government for a long time in Providence has, not always been on the side of people. And so, it's a little bit of like, I'm trying to prove you wrong. Like we can do cool stuff. We can do big stuff, but also we're going to try and make sure that the parking situation on your street works for you. I will answer the small question about the thing that fell down on your street. We want to make sure you have your stop sign, but also like, hey, we're also going to address climate change at the same time.
Yeah. And you can walk and chew gum at the same time.
Yes!
It's for sure. Come on. And all right. So let's talk about the schools. I mean, look, the city council has a minimal role in right now for sure, because it's the state of Rhode Island has taken over the district. But, even just using the bully pulpit, what do you want to see happen with Providence schools here? Do you want should they be returned to city control, and when should that? I mean, they obviously should, but at what point is it time to say, hey, there's nothing more that the state can do to remedy this situation. We need local control here. And I feel as a counselor that even just from an advisory bully pulpit standpoint, the city's ready to receive the schools back.
Yeah, I'd say I agree. I think we need to regain control of the schools. The mayor put out his proposed plan for moving forward. I reviewed that ahead of time and provided some comments on that, to be honest. And I think and we have a new school board, part elected, part appointed. I'm excited for them to get their sea legs under them, which they're doing, and they are starting to run. Run meaning like move quickly, not like run for office again. But I think like give us a year and then give them back. And the thing that I want to see, I think we need a year to gel together to really all commit to this plan, to make sure that the teachers feel good about it, to make sure that the students are bought in, that the school board has a little bit of time under their belt. And July 1st, 2026, give us the keys and we'll be running. And which might not be a popular time, maybe for the mayor to want to take them back since they'll be running for re-election, but I think that makes sense and can give us enough time to really plan. Because here's what's happened for a long time. When I was running for office, I read a lot of the school reports going back to the 80s, just to be like, what has been going on here? And it's like every couple of years, there's the same report, but written by someone else. And then we completely this has been the same situation since I was a kid, apparently. And we have a report and then we completely change plans. And it's every couple of years we change the plan for the kids, and the schools just haven't had any consistency. Whereas a state like Massachusetts, for better or for worse, they've picked a plan and they've stuck with it. Sometimes you just need to stick with the plan. It's I'm a big exerciser. You pick a plan for your weightlifting, and 1 week maybe you're not lifting as heavy as you did last week, but that's part of it. You stick with the plan and by the end of the whatever amount of time, you're going to deadlift 250 pounds, but week to week it's not always going to be linear. So I think we just need to actually stick with a plan for 5 to 10 years, which is outside of, I know, political cycles, but I think having this next year to really have time together and agree on a plan and then just have the buy-in and then run with it will be really important.
The decoupling all of these issues from the political electoral cycle is something that is essential for the survival of the species. And that's people are probably going, here he goes, Bartholomew, here he goes again. Unfortunately, that is maybe not a conversation that's relevant in a 5-year span or a 10 or 20 or 50 or 100-year span. But again, it depends on what your goals are. And if you're somebody who wants to go to Mars and get the hell out of here before it all disappears, well, then that's one way of looking at it. Or you can make changes. You can impact change through a solution-oriented mindset. And unfortunately, political cycles, political survival is oftentimes prioritized over a long-term strategy. And do you think that on the whole right now, not even necessarily in Rhode Island, but as an elected official, do you think our political system is functioning in a way that actually addresses these long-term goals? Or is it too much about the business of politics?
That's a good question. I mean, I'm a new elected official. I'm only in my 3rd year.
Yep.
But honestly, like, one thing I'll say is, so I had never really planned to run for office. This wasn't some big goal of mine of like, I need to be a politician who's running for office. I just saw some things that were broken and that City Hall seemed like a place where one could fix them. And I think like having folks who aren't in this for like doing it as a career, I think would really help. That this isn't something that like, okay, like we get some things done and then like someone joked with me the other day, like, what are you going to do after council? And I was like, oh, I'm going to have dinner. Like, I honestly just thought they meant tonight when you get home at 9 p.m., you know? And I was like, I'm going to go home and have dinner. It'll be late, but, you know, whatever. And I think just being able to think, like, I'm doing this job now, and it's not just about what do I do next? Or, you know, we have these, at the General Assembly, they have these 2-year cycles, and it's so rough, because then in the 2nd year, folks don't always want to, like, push things forward or do something controversial. That's 50% of the time. Like, that's
right.
That's so much time that you spend running. At least on council, we have 4-year terms. And, you know, while we're here, just trying to get as much done as possible. So I think this, like, yeah, it's hard. It's hard to know, but yeah, I don't know if I'm fully answering your question, but I agree, and I'm not sure how to fix it.
Yeah, totally. And one thing that comes with that, of course, is term limits. I mean, this is, again, we're getting real macro here. Last couple of minutes here, I just want to ask you, you know, do you think, as a person who is, and I would say I would categorize you definitely as an optimist, definitely as somebody who understands the human heart, and just based on my observations of your work and knowing people who know you and so on and so forth, how much of moving issues forward right now that pertain to major existential threats like climate change, or sort of major threats like a housing crisis, an educational issue, healthcare, transit and multimodality. Say that word 100 times fast.
Yeah, that's hard.
Thank you. That's why we're on. That's why we're the Bartholomewtown podcast, because we can pronounce a word after 3 attempts. How much?
I mean, you said AnderBois on your first try, so I was impressed with your ability to pronounce stuff. So,
hey, you know
most
what?
people get it right.
I'm a winner in that category, if nothing else. Maybe nothing else, depending on who's listening right now. But you know, last question here.
Yeah.
The human heart, and I don't mean from a cardiovascular system sense. I mean from an theological, esoteric, spiritual sense. You are someone who has a lot of heart. How do we get more heart in government?
Yeah. Oh, that's such a good question. One, I appreciate that you said that, because I'm trying to bring a lot of heart to government. So I appreciate that you recognize that. I think, like, I read this book last year that was all about how, like, policy could be about community care. And I think that's how we have to think about it. We have to think about policy as kind of it's going to sound so hokey. Please don't make fun of me, anyone listening, but policy is kind of a love language. Like, how are we taking care of folks? Like, what is the solution that we can be working on together? And I really think that government is like part of that solution, and like electing folks, but also like government workers are a big part of that. So like making these environments that people want to be in and feel supported in, and, can get good things done, but like really framing it that way. And like, honestly, like in both this seat and then when I worked for the state, there's, like I said this earlier, there's good people doing like awesome stuff, like all across our state and across our city. And like, just even in my little neighborhood, there's so much good stuff happening. And so using government to like both recognize that and enhance that, like, you know, when I think of the schools, for example, like even just in my little neighborhood, one, we have super engaged parents. We had so many people show out to our public hearings last year who were Ward 3 parents. I was so proud. And they got a lot of good stuff done. But we have all these like experts, be they parents or students or people who are professionally involved in the schools. I'm like, how do we tap into that? Like, how do we bring their heart and their expertise into City Hall, into the State House, into all these places? Because they're here and they want to participate, and it doesn't seem like a thing that they can do necessarily. When you like break it down, you're like, no, this is where you come to participate. This is how you do it. I will smile at you while you're testifying. Like, it's not scary. I'll high five you afterward if you want it. Like, it doesn't have to be this intimidating thing. Like, we can all be in this together. And the tool I have right now is like, I can help write ordinances or resolutions or help you navigate City Hall. But like, you have tools too. Like, collectively, we have the toolbox. So I think we bring heart into government by like bringing it in, like electing people or hiring people who have that mindset, and then encouraging it. Like, don't let it get us down. So that's a big question, but one that I really like. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you're bringing it. You're bringing the heart, and
Thanks.
hey, you brought the heart to Bartholomewtown today, so we appreciate that, Counselor. Thanks for your time.
No, thank you for your time. This was really fun.
Hey, thanks for stopping by Bartholomewtown. For more content, follow me on Instagram at Bill Bartholomew.